Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Dean Nichols, and I'm also being joined by Carla Rodrigo. We head up kind of the partner marketing crew here at Infrascale. So hopefully you've got your pizza and you're enjoying it. We're going to kind of tag team on this presentation, and Ken Shaw, our CEO, will be joining us here just in a little bit. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Carla to talk a little bit about the agenda for today.
All right, so yeah, as Dean said, thank you everyone for joining us. Here is what we're going to be looking at today. First, we're going to talk about some trends in data protection in 2015. Then we're going to give you some of the Infrascale product updates that we've had recently. We want to tell you everything that's new and updated with Infrascale. Third, we're going to look at some partner resources, so resources available to you, how you can grow your business, grow your customer base. And then finally, we have a Q&A. You can ask anything, and that's going to be with Ken, our CEO, as well. So definitely think of some good questions, some tough questions to ask him. You can use the question tool throughout this presentation to do that. So you don't necessarily have to just wait for the Q&A. You can go ahead and start asking questions at any time. Also, if you did have any problems with your pizza delivery, you can type that in, and we'll get that taken care of. It could just be a late delivery driver or something along those lines. But definitely let us know. We want to stay good to our promise on that complimentary lunch. And then actually 2 quick housekeeping items just before we dive in here. We are recording this presentation, so we're going to be sending you all a copy of this replay. And then secondly is that we have a copy of these slides that we're going to be sharing with you as well, so you don't necessarily need to worry about taking notes or anything along those lines. We're going to be sharing all of this content and information with you. So you'll get that to your email inbox within the next 24 hours. All right, so with that, we are going to dive into our first topic. So we're going to be talking about trends in data protection in 2015. So one of the first trends that we're looking at here, we're calling living with a false sense of security. So what do we mean by that? Well, as you know, experiencing downtime can really hurt a business. And in fact, if you experience downtime, it can really put your organization out of business. But more professionals are living with this false sense of security, thinking that they have a backup system and a failover DR system, and thinking that they're covered. Well, what we've found here is that there's a major mismatch between the importance of data protection and disaster recovery and the level of preparation that's in place. So let's take a look at just a couple of these stats. Now, I'm not going to read through this whole page just for time here, but let's take a look at a couple of key points. So Gartner research found that 70% of businesses are not confident with the statement, our backup and disaster recovery operations are well managed and planned. I feel that's a really important one. Let's look at one other stat. So 98% of businesses can't survive with more than 24 hours of downtime. And in fact, if you're a smaller company, being down for a day is definitely going to kill your business. This last stat at the bottom here, IDC found that the average cost of downtime is $20,000 per hour. So simply ask yourself, is that something that you're willing to risk? And I know that all of you have joined this webinar because the answer is no. And so we're going to tell you about some of our product updates and some of the important things that are going on here at Infrascale to make it a lot easier to put a disaster recovery and, more importantly, a failover system in place. That's what we're going to learn about today. So let's look at another trend in disaster recovery in 2015. So this trend we're calling here the perceived high cost of DRaaS is limiting adoption. So this is what's really interesting about DRaaS in 2015 is that it's not very well understood. So this is a survey here of 350 companies, and these companies were ranging from 100 to 5,000 employees. Most of these businesses couldn't fail over to a second location. In fact, only 10% of the companies surveyed said that they could fail over within 15 minutes. Well, why haven't they invested in failover? Well, the #1 reason that was holding them back is the perceived cost of disaster recovery solutions. And after that, we found that reliability, complexity, and security were limiting adoption. But the overwhelming reason that you see is the graph on the right, and that's showing cost. So we're going to come back to this misperception a bit at the end of the presentation.
Great. So I'm going to talk a little about the evolution of backup and data protection, right? And it's entitled How DRaaS is the Next Step in Data Protection. And when we say DRaaS, that's an acronym for Disaster Recovery as a Service. So when you think back about the natural progression of evolution, it looks a little bit like this. We started off with tape, right, which is the primary way that we were backing up data, but it was reliable and still is. Then disk backup came along and became a lot more popular. It was a lot more efficient, and it's just a better solution, but it was really expensive. If you needed more space, more data to protect, you had to buy another appliance. Then came cloud backup, which is way cheaper and easier and even more reliable, but on the other hand, it can be really slow from both a backup and a recovery perspective, especially if you're dealing with large data sets, because you have to go transmit that data over a WAN. And then most recently came hybrid cloud backup, right, which is a combination of an appliance and cloud, right? And it combines the benefits of both. So it's cheaper, like the cloud is, but it's faster too because you have an on-premise appliance. And so you end up with something that's both kind of reliable and affordable, right? And as we head into 2016, you're starting to see the emergence of DRaaS, or what we're calling push-button failover, right? And it really is the best data protection paradigm out there, right? It gives you push-button failover, right? But so you not only have the ability to back up your data, but you now have the ability to fail over on the appliance or in the cloud and recover your data in less than 15 minutes. Now, as you think about the current methods, right, of disaster recovery, if you think back to the different ways that companies currently are backing up, you go from archiving to kind of cloud backup and traditional DR and failover solutions, right? But it's fair to consider that most will want to evaluate kind of based on several values, right? You think about RTO, RPO, security, and cost. You might notice the trend kind of as you move across, in that the archive doesn't have a great RTO, RPO, or even security, but it's not that expensive either, right? And then when you're moving across, you look at failover on the far right, it has great RTO and great RPO, but it's easily the highest when it comes to cost. Now, of course, what you really want is at the bottom, right? You want a solution that gives you great RTO, great RPO, and security, all at a low price that we can all afford, right? And on top of that, we want the ability to fail over in mere minutes, using more of the cloud and less hardware, where security is already kind of baked in. So, again, if you look at this in a little bit more detail, here's some examples. I'm not going to go through all the different ways that currently companies use for backup, but they go from simple kind of tape backups where you're storing the tapes off-site to more traditional, kind of more expensive failover solutions, right? Now, what's important is as you look at this for the pattern that we just proved that we wanted, right? What we're looking for is something with 5 circles all filled in, right? Something with a fantastic RTO, a great RPO, and security built in, all at a low price. But you simply don't see that in the combination anywhere. None of the current methods of disaster recovery really actually fit what we're looking for.
So what we just saw that Dean was showing us is that some vendors can achieve the RTO and RPO that we want, but they just don't achieve the cost that we want. And why is that? Well, here on the left, you see how most DR solutions are architected. So you have a production site that replicates to the failover site. And then because of the bandwidth, the people, and the software involved, it can actually cost up to 3 times as much to set up a DR solution. And on top of the expense to implement, it's complex to test and to use. It's vulnerable to hackers because security isn't built in. Well, the next slides that we're going to share with you are some of the updates that we have here at Infrascale that we wanted to share with you that solve for a lot of these problems.
Great. So we're going to start with kind of how our DRaaS solution works, right? So let's look at a better way to do it. Here are some end users that are working, right? But unknown to them, right? They're about to experience an unexpected disaster. Bang. All of a sudden, right, the red X symbolizes the disaster and everything goes down. Their servers, their applications, their databases. And so what are they supposed to do, right? Now you're the one that has to deal with this. It could literally happen at any time, even in the middle of the night. So you simply log in from any laptop, tablet, or really any browser, and you recover the environment, virtualize any of the servers that are down, right? And you can either boot those applications either directly on the appliance with Cloud Failover Appliance or within our cloud, right? And by doing this, everyone is able to keep working. The whole process can actually happen in minutes, right? And we're going to show you actually how this happens in a little bit towards the end of the session. This really is how tomorrow works. So I briefly mentioned Cloud Failover Appliance, and that's what we just launched this past week. And so what is the Cloud Failover Appliance? Well, as the name suggests, it's actually an actual physical appliances, which is a thin cloud edge device, but it includes online services and DRaaS services to allow you to boot anywhere, right, from a variety of different modalities. So that could be VMware, it could be Hyper-V, or even physical servers as well, right? Now, what does it do? The Cloud Failover Appliance allows you to recover quickly, easily, and affordably by booting critical servers and applications from the cloud or the appliance. Now, I guess I just want to stop and pause there, because what's unique about that is that there's DRaaS solutions out there that allow you to boot your critical servers from the appliance. There's some that allow you to boot from the cloud. Well, we're giving the ability to do either, right? And why that's important is if you experience some kind of micro disaster, like a server goes down, there it may make more sense to boot directly from a local appliance and recover over land speed. It's much quicker. But in the case of a server, a more major disaster like a tornado or a flood that takes away your servers or your site, booting from the cloud is really your only option. And we allow you to do both. And so why should you care? Well, first of all, we allow you to recover servers and applications in less than 15 minutes. And if you're doing more of a local boot, it's even faster than that. It can literally be in seconds. It also allows you to solve complex recovery scenarios with the push of a button. And when I'm talking about complex recovery scenarios, I'm talking about the ability to recover from micro disasters and from macro disasters like a tornado or a flood. Plus, it reduces the amount of hardware, bandwidth, and software costs because of something we call cloud spillover, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And then it also allows you to protect large data sets with military-grade security. So with that, I'm going to have Carla talk to you a little bit about cloud spillover.
Yeah, so cloud spillover is baked into the CFA. And what does it do? Well, cloud spillover understands that not all data is going to require expensive local capacity. So it spills over to the cloud smartly, and it eliminates the need to grow your local appliance as you need more capacity. So it's very push-button scalability. There's no need to provision any additional hardware. There's no need to buy a second appliance for the replicated data store. So it allows you to scale easily and affordably. You set the policies regarding the age and the value of the data that's spilling over to the cloud. And again, most importantly, it's baked right into the CFA. And then the genius of all this is that it's easy enough for a fourth grader because it's push-button failover from anywhere for any type of environment. You can boot on the appliance or in a cloud, support for VMware, Hyper-V, Windows, and Linux, and you can recover in 15 minutes or less. We give that assurance to all of our customers that you can fail over in 15 minutes in the case of any disaster. And you are actually going to see that in just a few minutes. We're going to have the demo that Ken is going to give. And again, you can ask any questions about that as that comes up. I do see the question line is a little bit quiet now, so be sure to get those questions in for the Q&A.
Great. And so when we started developing the Cloud Failover Appliance, what we really wanted was to develop what we call a magic backup box, right? And so what is a magic backup box? Well, essentially, it's the ability to converge 4 different technologies into a single appliance, right? So it includes WAN accelerators, which help you back up larger amounts of data over the WAN to get the data into the cloud. It leverages cloud storage gateways, that kind of functionality that allows us to spill over data from the appliance automatically to the cloud. So again, instead of having to buy additional appliances when you fill up with more data, it allows you to automatically spill the excess data to the cloud based on policies that you set. Obviously, it has the cloud baked into it with direct-to-cloud backup, and obviously all the good functionality you get with a purpose-built backup appliance, right, which includes all the backup software with fast backup and fast recovery, all baked into a single solution. Now, this is our slide that talks a little bit about the failover. We're going to do a quick demo here in just a little bit, so we'll come back to this in just a few moments. So to wrap up, right, what you get with the Cloud Failover Appliance really is a simple, secure, and affordable solution. It's really enterprise-grade failover at a price point that's affordable for your clients as well, right? On the simplicity side, we allow your clients to fail over within 15 minutes. We allow you to do that from either the appliance or from the cloud to protect everything. In terms of security, we have encryption baked in. Not only kind of is it baked in transit, also on the device, but also at rest as well within our data centers. We also offer private key encryption. We also offer endpoint protection, so we're protecting all your devices and servers as well. And we've also built in two-factor authentication to ensure that when people are running from the cloud, that only the people that have access, that should have access to those applications, can actually log in when you're in a outage mode. And then lastly, and one of the key differentiators here is our ability to make this affordable, right? So in addition, instead of having to invest in additional hardware and software and bandwidth, it's all baked into the Cloud Failover solution. So with that, we're going to translate over to partner resources.
Yeah, so we're going to take a quick look here at some of the resources that are available to you as a partner. Before I do that, I have one quick question for all of you. I'd like to know, for everyone joining us today, how many of you have used the Partner Resource Center in your dashboard? So I'll give everyone a minute here to respond. Please just go to the question tool, either a yes or no, or you can expand on that a little bit more. Let us know what you've used. I see already, Martin says yes, used it. Ryan says no. Ron says, I use it all the time. Ron, what have you used? What do you like best? What do you see needs improvement? Now I see Michael says yes. Donald says yes. Martin says, I like the ideas section. Yes, but not that much. Now I see a couple of no's coming through. No, where's that, says Eric. Well, Eric, we'll be able to show that to you today. Crystal says yes. I have to get info on selling.
Yeah, on how to sell, how to market. Yeah, makes sense.
Joby says never used it. Okay, so we'll be sure to show you in the dashboard where you can access that Partner Resource Center. We want to make sure that you're all using that, and we'd love to hear back from you on what you have used and what you'd like to see there. So let's get back into the presentation here. This is one of the resources available to you as a partner of Infrascale. Now this is a co-marketing opportunity that we have. We like to call this event in a box. So the two photos that you see on the screen here are just examples of email invitations for the event in the box. But what is the event in the box? Well, it's a co-branding opportunity where you're also co-presenting. So a member of your organization and a member of our organization co-presenting at an in-person local event. So you can invite your entire customer base and at the same time take advantage of Infrascale marketing materials. So we'll be providing information to you, selling points. We can send out these invitations just like you see here on the screen. And it means that the in a box of the event in the box means that we take care of all the logistics for you. So we're working together with you, and this is a really great resource for you to take advantage of to grow your business. Another opportunity that we wanted to share with you is a Lunch and Learn webinar or a pizza webinar. And this is exactly like what we're doing today. We sent the pizza over to you, and we had you join in on a Lunch and Learn. So this is another great opportunity. It's a virtual event. So the great thing here is that your customers don't even have to leave their office. It's the convenience and the ease of them simply logging in at their computer and joining you. The pizza is delivered on site right at the time of the presentation, and that was part of the reason too. In the beginning of this presentation, I said, hey, let me know if the delivery was was late or if it came on time, just to get some feedback and get some response from that. So we want to make sure that everything's always running smoothly. And finally, again, we take care of all the logistics on that, so you don't need to worry about anything. This is the third resource that we have to you, and this is the Partner Resource Center. So just a minute ago when we asked which of you had used the Partner Resource Center and who was familiar with it and not, we'd love to hear feedback from our partners and see what's working for you and what's not. Now, the Partner Resource Center we love to refer to as the PRC. And you can see a screenshot of the PRC here on the right, where we have the intro section that sort of gives you a brief overview of what's in the PRC and what you'll find. We have helpful webinars. We have sales materials and templates. In the marketing section, we provide email templates, data sheets. In the video section, we're going to give you product releases, product how-tos. So we have lots of training videos. We have lots of materials and product information in there for you. Again, those of you who said that you had not yet used the Partner Resource Center, we'll be able to show you where that is today.
Yeah, and the other thing to point out with the Partner Resource Center is we just revamped it. And so we've added a lot more resources. So there's email templates in there. We're adding the ability to do some co-brandable data sheets, leveraging kind of our content. And so it really is a kind of your one-stop shop. And if you haven't been there for a while, it's really been enhanced over the last couple of weeks.
So that brings us close to the end of the presentation for you today. But before we jump into that Q&A and before we have Ken show you that demo, we wanted to let you know what's next. So thank you so much for joining us today. And because you did join us today, we want to make this offer to you to schedule one of those events that we just mentioned. So schedule either an in-person event in a box or one of the virtual events, the Lunch and Learn. And you can schedule that with us to promote failover and disaster recovery to your customer base. We have an image of the CFA here on the screen as well. I have one more question that I'd like to ask all of you. On the slide here, we made mention to contact your account manager today to get this set up. Does everyone on the line know who their account manager is? Is there anyone joining us today who has not spoken with their account manager recently or does not know who their account manager is? So far, I see quite a few yeses. I see yes, Peter. Peter is great. You're definitely in good hands with him. I see yes, we're good, yes. So I'm seeing all yeses so far. I have not seen any no's. So that's great to hear that you've all been in contact and you all are very well aware of your account manager. You can discuss any of these events primarily with them, and also, of course, contact us at any time at the email and phone number that you see here on this slide.
Yeah, so I think what we're going to do is I am not sure if Ken is going to be able to join us today, so we're going to kind of dive right into the demo. So I am going to do my level best as a marketer to kind of walk you through a semi-technical demo. So bear with me. Let me go back to the slide really quickly. So for those of you not familiar, hopefully most of you are familiar with the dashboard. This is it. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into the dashboard, and here's where you can find, for example, the backup appliances, right? And again, you can choose any of these appliances. What we're going to do here is choose and manage your appliances. From here, you can see which ones are currently replicating, how many are replicating in the cloud versus just replicating locally. And you can see that here in the sidebar. And then what we're going to do is we're going to actually go into the appliance, and we're going to choose which VM we want to actually restore. Okay, so here, for example, you can see that we're replicating to the cloud. Let me quickly get to the list of VMs here. Give it 1 second. So now we're going to kind of browse and recover our files. And so again, if there's an outage, you're going to be able to scan through all the various backups and all the various VMs, and then you're going to be able to choose, in this case, Cloud Boot, and you can boot from the cloud. It works very similar if you're doing a local boot. Choose the VM that you want to restore. Just click the boot button, and there you go. You'll get a little 3 or 4 step wizard. It'll tell you kind of the recovery point that you want to boot from. You just choose Next. You can select any of the kind of network configurations and where you want kind of the instance to go from. It'll either allow traffic from any IP or from specific IPs. So you just do a few clicks, choose next, and then it'll essentially allow you to review your selections and then send an email to you once the boot process has begun. And then we're going to kind of wait here a second or so. We check in and see our active, and we can see that the, in this case, our Windows backup is in the process of booting up, and then you'll get a screen for the remote desktop connection. You log in, and voila, we're going to quickly kind of ping the server to make sure that it is in fact up and running. So you enter your credentials in. Again, go through the screens, go through the desktop connection, and voila, we're going to ping to see if we're actually live. There we go. And now we're back into the server manager, and your server is actually back up and running. And here's where I think we do a final ping to make sure that it's actually working. Go through the PowerShell, ping Google, and look, there we go. We're good to go. And that's as simple as the Cloud Boot works. It's really just a few keystrokes, selecting the right VMs that you want to boot up. In time, we're going to also allow you the ability to kind of orchestrate and coordinate the order of those VMs. But there's a quick overview of the Infrascale failover in action. And again, if you want to see that in more detail, we encourage you to reach out to your account manager to kind of show you that up close and personal. And again, the functionality works the same way whether you're booting locally from the VM that's sitting on the appliance or you're booting from the cloud. So with that, I guess we can head right into our Q&A.
Yep, so any questions, please use that question tool and get those in. We also did mention that we'll be able to show you where the Partner Resource Center is in the dashboard, so we'll get that pulled up as well. But we'll give you a minute to get some questions in. If you do need to get going this afternoon, again, thank you for your time today. Those of you that do have questions, we're going to be sticking around to answer those. Thanks. Okay, so if I could just get confirmation that you're seeing the dashboard login screen. What I want to do is take you into the Partner Resource Center. As I mentioned, I'd be able to show you where that's located. So hopefully you can see that.
Where was it?
Okay, so following along with me, we've just logged into the dashboard, and just as a quick recap to show you where the Partner Resource Center is located, you'll just scroll down right to the Support Center. You'll see Partner Resource Center just below the dashboard overview. So if you just click on the PRC, that will bring you right in, and you will be seeing the intro page that we saw earlier. So this is what we talked through just a moment ago. You have the webinars here available to you, all the sales materials, the marketing materials, and the training videos as well. So any further questions on the PRC, just let us know. But right now what we're going to do is pass it over to CEO Ken Shaw. He's going to be he's going to be answering all of the questions that you have coming through to him.
All right, great. Good morning or afternoon, wherever you are, folks. Hope it's been a useful webinar so far, and please do ask me anything. We've got a few questions on the line here, but ask me anything on any topic. So the first question we have here is from Ron, and it's on a single DC. How would the node authenticate? Ron, maybe you could give me a bit more context on that question, please. Don't quite follow. Ryland says, what size of client are you targeting with this product? Great question, Ryland. It really spans the gamut, right? So every business needs to fail over their servers. Every business is hurt by a disaster. When a disaster happens, you need to respond to it almost immediately, and there are no exceptions. Our own data shows that companies have problems with disaster recovery, whether they're a small business or whether they're a really large business. In fact, in the study that we recently did, only 10% of businesses could fail over to a second location in under 15 minutes. And that was true whether it was a 50-person business or a 5,000-person business. So the cloud failover appliance is targeted at people who haven't been able to afford failover, right, in the past. It's about 80% less expensive than a traditional hardware-based disaster recovery rig. So the real answer to your question is, who are we targeting with this product? Anybody who doesn't have failover but needs it. Hopefully that answers your question. Chris asks, how much storage space is available on the appliance? Well, Chris, again, there's a wide variety of options. The smallest appliance that we have in the CFA line has 4 terabytes of local capacity, and our largest solutions go up to 600 terabytes of local capacity in a clustered environment. So there's a very large span between the smallest devices and the largest devices. Eric asks, is this ready for all operating systems? Well, Eric, probably not all operating systems, but a fair lot of them. So the 4 major platforms we're targeting are Windows on Metal, Linux on Metal, Hyper-V, and VMware. And between those 4 platforms, we believe we cover about 90% of modern enterprise infrastructure. But in addition to that, we also support Unix, all the major versions of Unix, some more esoteric operating systems like Novel NetWare. And in endpoint land, remember that the cloud failover appliance comes with our endpoint solution. So in endpoint land, we also support Windows on laptops and Mac OS X on laptops. And then we even back up mobiles. I like to say we back up everything from mobiles to mainframes. So, iOS and Android are also covered by the technology. So really anything that you're likely to encounter, Infrascale's got a solution for. All right, Martin says, the demos I've seen so far are all proof of concept. Can you tell me more on what other factors play a role in successfully booting up from the cloud? What other issues will my customer have? Hi, Martin. I think you've been on another webinar, I did. So when you say the proof of concept, Martin, they're actually videos of failing a server over. So you're right, they're kind of small failovers. The biggest issue that you're going to run into, well, the biggest decision point you're going to run into when you're doing a failover is figuring out whether you're dealing with a micro disaster or a macro disaster. Or put another way, do you want to fail over to the local appliance or do you want to fail over to the cloud? So once you've sort of figured out the resolution of failover, the next decision point is figuring out what you're failing over. And as you get larger and larger failovers, you need to worry about what we call orchestration, or basically the order in which you're going to bring up different machines and how you're going to network those things. And so those are probably the biggest considerations, where you're going to fail over to, and then the order in which you're going to fail over. Hopefully that answers the question. All right, Ahmed asks, I have a Windows 2K8 server with attached storage and a cluster failover. Can that be backed up to the cloud? Ahmed, absolutely it can. So the OS coverage I was talking about before extends to Windows. We still support Windows Server 2008. We even support Windows Server 2003, even though Microsoft's end of life that. So absolutely you can do a 2K8 cluster. Eric asks, will this work on a Mac server? Eric, yes it will. So under the hood, Mac is actually a Unix distro based on FreeBSD. And so we support OS X, we support X Server, and we support FreeBSD. Joby says, we have a peculiar environment dominated by free cloud backups on offer, which have made it difficult to penetrate our market in Nigeria. How do we crack this? Well, Joby, who are you selling to? I think there's a big difference between selling to what I'll call small micro businesses on the one hand, and to larger sort of small enterprises on the other. So if you're selling to businesses with a few employees, then competing with the Dropboxes of the world is tough. But if you're if you're selling or servicing a business that has even a single server, then those free solutions just aren't going to work for those customers. So it's really a matter of you educating your customers. If they do have server infrastructure, those free solutions just aren't going to work for them, right? And so it's a matter of educating your customer set on that. And it's a really easy thing to do. Okay, Bob, walk me through how you would fail over your Exchange server using Dropbox, right? And of course, there is no answer to that question. Hopefully that helps. Chris says, or asks, what kind of redundancy is built into the appliance? Well, Chris, two types of redundancy. Firstly, local redundancy in the form of dual power supplies, dual processors, redundant backplanes, and then redundant storage technology in the form of a RAID on the disk. But that's the small answer. The true answer, the big answer, is that any data that hits that local appliance gets replicated to the cloud. The benefit of hybrid cloud is that you overcome the fragility of on-prem infrastructure. Carla probably presented a slide that had the pros and cons of cloud storage versus appliance-based storage, or maybe Dean presented. One of the big problems with physical gear is it breaks, right? As Jason Buffington likes to say, bad things happen on-prem. So the best form of redundancy with the cloud failover appliance is that every block that hits that gets replicated to the cloud, and you can take a bucket of liquid nitrogen, pour it over that appliance. It doesn't matter because that data is safe off of the site. Donald says, when a VM is flipped to the cloud, how is data replicated back to the on-site device so that no data is lost that may have been written to the VM while in the cloud? Donald, that's an insightful question. So this is the idea that when you have done a failover, you're now using that server in production again, right? Now, it may be running in the cloud, but the data's still changing. I believe that we're the only vendor who takes care of this. So what we then do is when you sort of spin up the VM in the cloud, we automatically add it to the backup set, and we continue to protect it. So that when you bring it back down to your new infrastructure, it's bringing down the latest version. With, for example, with Datto, you kind of end up with a data jail, right? Because your data's changing now that it's running in the virtualized environment, but there's no easy way to get that data back to your original equipment. So that ability to have sort of intelligent protection of failed over infrastructure is really important. All right, Crystal asks, I can test locally with my backups by mounting them, but would like the ability to be able to virtually mount them, not with an appliance, but perhaps through the dashboard, just for testing purposes to make sure they are not missing anything or corrupt. Is this something that you plan on ever offering? Well, Crystal, I'm not sure about the virtual mount, but what you can do is simply spin up the VM in the cloud and make sure it's booting and running. You would have seen that in the demo. And then you can browse around for the files you're looking for to make sure that they're available. That's actually going to be faster than, well, potentially faster than worrying about doing a mount and then inspecting the file system. Martin asks another question. If systems depend on each other, it will be a real orchestration with Cloud Boot. How to manage? Martin, so the best way to handle that is to work with our professional services team to set up orchestration, automated orchestration between those virtual machines. Otherwise, you're right. You have to be quite careful and think through the order in which you want to bring those VMs back up. Now, we've got a few more questions on the line, but I just want to ask the audience a question. As part of the presentation today, we walked through some of the marketing services that we can offer to you, our partners, where we can team up and help you drive demand in your market, in your area, with both physical events as well as virtual events. I'd love to ask the audience, what do you think of that? And is there anybody in the audience who would like to sign up for that kind of a program, so that we have the opportunity to do these co-marketing events together? One of my goals for today's webinar was to actually get folks to volunteer, right? So if you would like us to give you some, so here's how it works. We work together. Infrascale provides some money to help you advertise an event in your market. We will then usually send one of our staff to co-present with you. We might book out a private room at a restaurant, get 20 of your customers together. We will usually fund the majority of that, so long as you can bring the audience. Alternatively, we can pair up and do a pizza webinar like today. Hopefully, you all got pizzas, and if not, we'll we'll send you some pizzas tomorrow. But with the pizza webinar, it's like this, the one you're attending today. So we co-promote to all of your customers, we send a pizza to them, and then we partner up and co-present to your customers about disaster recovery, DR as a service. So in both cases, Infrascale is really helping you drive demand, helping you run the event with the content, and providing financial assistance to actually pay for it as well. If that's of interest to you, and you'd like to learn more about doing some of those co-marketing events, please type into the questions tool, I'm interested in co-marketing events. And we'll follow up with you to figure out if we can get you into that program. It's a great way to drive demand, great way to make more money. All right, pivoting back to the questions, we've got another question here from Joby. Also, our target customers are already brandishing some of the major players as already providing such services. What will be a unique sales proposition to them to run with Infrascale? So Joby, it's really going to depend upon which competitors you're dealing with. So if you can sort of mention a few of the people you're seeing in your local market, then I can probably give you a better answer. What I will say is this, very few companies out there actually give you cloud failover. I want to say very few, like 2 or 3, right? So DRAS or DRAS is the academic term for this part of the market, disaster recovery as a service. And it's this new wave of disaster recovery and backup technology that I really think is going to kill backup, right? I think backup will die off in the face of this new wave of technology that lets you bring back your infrastructure with the push of a button. And so you might have a lot of backup vendors in your markets, but you don't have many failover or DRAS vendors in the market. So one, Ron here has actually mentioned that Carbonite is a big competitor. Ron, Carbonite doesn't have anything like this, right? Carbonite's got a little toy bicycle, and this is a Mack truck, right? Just completely different end of the spectrum. And so that's a really good juxtaposition, because there's a lot of vendors who create obfuscation and noise in the market. People might think Carbonite actually can do disaster recovery and failover, but they can't. So the promise that you can make to your customers is this: hey, Mr. Customer, wouldn't you like to be able to fail over your infrastructure in 15 minutes? Right? 90% of the time they're going to say yes to that. Mr. Customer, what stopped you from doing that in the past? 60% of the time they're going to say cost. Okay, Mr. Customer, what if for the price of a backup solution, I could deliver to you 15-minute failover to a second location for 80% less than traditional DDR solutions? That's going to get your customer's attention, right? And a Carbonite can't provide that, a Datto can't provide that, an eFolder can't provide that. This product line, the Cloud Failover Appliance, puts you in a really unique position to offer your customers a brand new level of failover and reliability and disaster recovery that can't be met by the other competitors in the field. And that's why we're doing the webinar today. We want to educate you guys about this product line, get you testing it, trying it out. Hopefully that answered your question there, Joby. All right, so we're running out of questions here, folks. I encourage you to ask a few more on any topic you like. But the next question is from Donald, and Donald asks, is there an agent that runs on the source server? So Donald, you can configure Infrascale to run in both an agentless or an agent-based deployment. And so really that choice is up to you and based on what makes the most sense for your network environment and your architecture. In many cases, you will install an agent to back up a server, but in other cases, for example, with Hyper-V or VMware, that's going to just be best done agentless across the network. Hope that answers the question. Ahmed's got another question. He asks, what about devices attached to the current network, like printers and scanners? Will they be available? Ahmed, no. We haven't cracked how to virtualize and fail over your printers when your building burns down. I'm being facetious, of course. But in the case where there are certain key assets in your local network, like a printer, that can't be virtualized and failed over, the system's going to deal with that elegantly and transparently. Or in other words, it's going to not hang up because certain devices or certain resources aren't available. So in the case of a printer, we obviously can't fail that across, but that's not going to stand in the way of bringing back your applications and your key infrastructure that you need to run your business. Martin says the competition here relies on Veeam a lot. Well, Martin, here's your talk track against Veeam. Firstly, they only provide software. And the problem with that is that their software runs into all sorts of difficulties when you run it on different hardware. Infrascale, on the other hand, partnering with you, gives you a fully integrated solution that works end-to-end. It's a bit like an Apple iPhone. You know that it just works, right? Secondly, Veeam is incredibly expensive. So their per-socket licensing means that you're going to spend thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars to set up a cloud, disk-to-disk-to-cloud failover environment. Thirdly, because Veeam's only a software company, they don't provide cloud services. So what it means is that you or your customer have to go out and partner with somebody else and find a cloud service provider to run Veeam in. Fourthly, they really only work well on the VMware platform. And although VMware is a very common platform for companies to run on, there's still a heck of a lot of Windows on Metal out there, Linux on Metal, and Hyper-V's coming up in very quickly as well as a new hypervisor. So if your customers have a ton of money, don't worry about running into bugs and compatibility issues on hardware. Only run VMware and are happy with a very long and complicated deployment, then Veeam's a wonderful solution for those customers. If, on the other hand, those would be problems, then you and Infrascale together can absolutely win that deal. Jim asks, are there any special offers for demo products to test out? Jim, absolutely. So as a partner, you can get access to everything you've heard about today on an evaluation basis. So I'm not sure which territory you're in or which account manager you're working with, but talk to your account manager about getting access to our latest and greatest technology and being able to evaluate that and actually use it hands-on. Ahmed writes, I have a server with 200 gigabytes. About how much will this solution cost? Ahmed, I don't have pricing on the tip of my tongue. 200 gigabytes is quite small, and so that's going to be handled by even our most basic package, which starts at a few $100s a month. Now, if you're going to, if you're using our data protection cloud. If, on the other hand, you're using one of our appliance-based technologies, you would buy one of our 4 terabyte units, which is a bit more expensive than that. So it really varies based on whether or not you want to go hybrid cloud, which involves some of our hardware, or if you want to go straight to cloud, direct to cloud, which is our DPC product. Chris has got a question. Chris asks, how is your appliance different than, say, a Datto appliance? Well, Chris, that's a great question. So Datto, solid product, again, not perfect. Some of the issues with Datto are because they don't build their own imaging technology or really their own backup technology, and because they outsource all of that to StorageCraft, who makes the Shadow Protect product, what you have with Datto is sort of a very elegant assembly of other people's technology. You could go down to Best Buy, buy a NAS, then go to Shadow Protect's StorageCraft's website and buy Shadow Protect and actually set up your own sort of Datto appliance. And because of that, it runs into the same limitations that the underlying technology that they're reselling has. For example, the Datto technology really doesn't work particularly well on anything other than Windows running on Metal. So if you've got VMware in your environment, well, the StorageCraft tech and therefore the Datto technology doesn't know how to deal with the VMware hypervisor. Similar problems occur with the Hyper-V hypervisor. Also, when you look at Datto, they're very much limited to servers. So if you wanted to back up laptops or if you wanted to back up mobile endpoints, then Datto wouldn't be a good solution for you. One of the third big problems with Datto is that there's just no guarantee around your recovery time. So with Infrascale's Cloud Failover appliance, we guarantee 15 minutes between when your disaster occurs and when you're spun up and running in another location. Datto, on the other hand, doesn't really guarantee anything. It could take a few hours, or more than likely, it could take a few days. And then lastly, Datto is pretty expensive. So what you'll find with Infrascale is that we're actually less expensive than Datto, even though we have substantially more technology and guarantee a failover time. So if you've got customers that are on Windows only care about servers, have plenty of money to burn, and don't really care how long it takes to get back up and running, Datto's a great solution. If, on the other hand, one of those 4 things would be a problem for your customer, Datto's not. Ryland's got another question. Can you please explain the networking aspect of the failover to cloud? Does the appliance provide a VPN so the local IP is forwarded to the cloud? What about public services? How is traffic rerouted to the failover server? Well, there's a few different ways to do this. If you were using a private cloud deployment, then then you're in total control of the network configuration. And you can address all of the different network routing requirements that you have yourself, and it's very seamless with your current environment. If, on the other hand, you're using our public cloud infrastructure, then yes, as part of the wizard that Carl would have demoed earlier, one of the settings that you walk through is setting up that firewall and that VPN rule. Thirdly, we'll work with you to customize this. So, for example, we've got some customers who like to put in MPLS links between their network environment and our network environment, and that makes transition in a failover seamless and secure and fast. So we've got flexibility to do high-end network routing and customized network routing based on you or your customer's requirements. Ron asks, is this solution geared more towards servers than desktops? Well, Ron, what's great about the Cloud Failover solution is that it's the everything Infrascale product. So it includes our award-winning DPC product, Data Protection Cloud product, which you'd be familiar with. And that's a wonderful product for endpoints, for laptops. It allows you to do things like find my laptop and wipe my laptop. Carla, was that in the demo video we did today? Was that we just demoed Cloud? Okay. So the Cloud Failover Appliance includes that endpoint product. It also includes then all of our server backup technology for physical servers, virtual servers across Windows, Linux, and Unix. On top of all that, it then gives you the DRAS, or the failover capability. So if you see it anywhere on the Infrascale website, it's in the CFA product. If you've ever heard Infrascale talk about it, it's in the CFA product. That's what's so elegant about the CFA product, is it's everything Infrascale, bundled and integrated together. And so, in direct answer to your question, is this solution geared towards servers or desktops? The answer is yes. And that's the last question we've got on the line at the moment, guys. So we'll be here for a few more minutes. If you've got more questions, please do ask. If you're interested in doing one of those co-marketing events, make sure you put your details in. Otherwise, we'll be here and we'll wait for the next set of questions. Timothy writes, how difficult are the physical disks inside the appliance to replace? Timothy, I'm really glad you asked that question. One of the things that has recently come up in some customer research we've done is that partners love the field upgradeability of our equipment. And what I mean by that is if you're using something like a Barracuda or a Unitrends device or a Datto device, those devices are physically difficult to upgrade in that they're sealed off with custom chassis that don't really allow you to get to the internal componentry. But also, their terms of service will often actually prohibit you from opening up and doing field upgrades. On the other hand, we encourage that. So our servers are highly customizable, and it's easy for you to pop off the grill at the front, and there's then hot swap storage bays that you can remove disks from and upgrade disks in the field, all very easily without taking it out of a rack. So that's actually one of the things that we've recently learned our partners love about our equipment. Ahmed asks another question. Can this solution be used to fail over for a domain, and while in a failover state, will other servers be able to authenticate? Absolutely. So one of the most common use cases for technology like this would be failing over, a workgroup server or an Exchange server. Now, we all know to bring Exchange back online, you've got to bring Active Directory back online as well. So you can absolutely use this to fail over your AD server and then your Exchange server, and then, of course, all your users can authenticate and use the network as if there was no disaster. All right, folks, well, that seems to be the end of the questions. Hopefully today's been an informative webinar. We want to encourage you to come to these webinars and continue to get educated about the products and offerings we've got here at Infrascale. We're not just your technology partner, but we can be your marketing and your sales partner too. So I really think one of the most important takeaways from today is, hey, can we partner up and do some co-marketing events in your area to get you some more leads, to get you some more opportunities, and ultimately to drive more revenue for your business. And so thanks to Carla and Dean for covering for me in my absence, and thank you for your attention. Have a wonderful day.